From the outside, the lives of some political leaders may seem luxurious and entertaining. However, being one of the most popular and powerful leaders on the planet comes at a high cost. Especially when we talk about Donald Trump, one of the most controversial presidents the United States has ever had. His controversial figure has caused rejection in many people and has made him the victim of multiple attempts on his life. The great responsibility of the American Secret Service is to offer security and protection to those who govern, mainly the president and his closest circle. Due to the level of public exposure that leaders are constantly in, a large part of the work of the Secret Service consists of making difficult decisions at crucial moments in which nothing more and nothing less than the lives of the leaders are at stake. During Donald Trump's government, a significant number of guards formed his personal security. Since then, the controversial president has gained a reputation for spending billions of dollars on security, even after leaving office in 2021, which constantly puts him in the eye of the storm. In this report, we will tell you the details about why the Secret Service's protection for Donald Trump has been different from that of other presidents and has generated national controversy. Let's get started. The United States Secret Service began providing presidential protection in 1901 after the controversial assassination of then-President William McKinley in Buffalo, New York. This function became mandatory for the duration of the mandate and also extended to their spouses and immediate family members. But in 1958, the Former President's Act was passed, which, starting in 1965, obliged the state to provide lifelong security to those who held the position and also to their closest family. However, Donald Trump has been an atypical case in the history of the Secret Service, and to this day continues to generate controversy for some excesses in matters of state security, such as the protection of his inner circle, the extension of service for some members of his cabinet, and the billing of bodyguard expenses on his private properties. Tim Miller, a former Secret Service agent who was in charge of protecting Trump during his government, explains the responsibilities of the organization.
Well, you know, Michael, the Secret Service takes protecting the former president with the same seriousness as protecting a current president. One small mistake, one door left open, one area not properly protected could result in the death of a president.
Miller also clarifies that the level of security can vary for each president, since it depends on the analysis that the agents make through their intelligence and coordination capabilities in each situation, as well as the strategies used, better known as security bubbles. In the case of Donald Trump, his protection team seems to have had more officers and logistics than in other cases, not only during his government, but also afterwards.
If a person is loved or hated, by certain elements, it can create security challenges.
Protecting and securing former President Donald Trump.
Trump's controversial figure, both as president and today, undoubtedly exposes him to a number of dangers that require his security system to be up to par. One particular aspect of his service is that his agents become notorious for remaining loyal to him and staying on his teams for many years. This was the case with Miller, but even more notorious is the case with Keith Schiller.
Keith Schiller is Director of Operations at the White House. He's one of Donald Trump's closest advisors, but he has an interesting background for that role. He used to be Chief of Security for the Trump Organization. He was a New York City police detective. He started working part-time for Trump in 1999, so he's been working for him for almost 20 years.
Over the years, Keith Schiller has earned the leader's trust through his loyalty, leading to some of the most memorable moments in terms of protection. Just by standing next to him, one could tell that he is the kind of person no one would want to mess with. His imposing size and intense gaze make him a fearless man who has dedicated his qualities to defending the leader.
Keith Schiller knows Donald Trump better than probably anyone else in the White House, with the exception of the Trump family members. One of the things that people who know Schiller say about him is that he's a fiercely loyal person, and he has been very loyal to Donald Trump, including in a physical sense, which you would expect given that he does security. But he did have some moments during the campaign when he was especially aggressive in a way that got a lot of scrutiny.
Schiller's loyalty and the fame he gained for his performance made him one of Trump's most trusted men to protect his safety. In 2017, Keith Schiller took on the aforementioned role of Director of Security Operations for the White House after Donald Trump assumed the presidency. In this position, the bodyguard could know more about the president's movements than many of his closest officials.
Now, it's important to note that his official job in the White House is not security. He is Director of Operations, but what that means in practice, we're still sort of learning. What it seems to mean is kind of spending time with Trump. He's a guy who sometimes goes back to the residence with Trump in the evening at a time when he's watching cable TV, kind of sits around while the president is drinking Diet Coke and watching cable.
In addition to these peculiarities that the Secret Service had with Donald Trump, during his government, the president demanded greater protection from the security forces than other presidents, drawing the attention not only of the media, but also of the Secret Service itself, who had to increase the resources available to be able to contain these requests. One of the aspects in which Trump did not spare expenses when it came to ensuring protection was for his family. It is stipulated that during his government, this coverage cost millions of dollars and required infrastructure and logistics from the Federal Security Forces Service like never before in its history, having to reinforce with an extra number of full-time bodyguards to control the movements of Trump and his family.
Does this protection extend out to his grown children?
Always it can be requested, and then it's a decision between the White House and the Secret Service.
But given the high level of threat and contentiousness during Trump's campaign, former Secret Service agent Bongino believes there will be no choice.
The nuclear family is all going to have protective details. The sons, the daughters, they're all going to have their own specific details, which are going to have their own financial codes, their own fancy code names.
Protecting the Trump family has been costly for the Secret Service budget, as their adult children travel extensively around the country and the world for personal reasons such as vacations, but also for trips connected to the family business. According to government records, members of the Trump family made more than 4,500 trips between 2017 and 2019, and these movements required state protection services, generating a cost of several tens of millions of dollars. As if all this were not enough, Trump's political measures required some extra attributes in terms of security.
The hostile environment and threat level directed at Trump may even call for protection of his extended family as well.
They'll be doing risk analysis and seeing if there's potential threats, what are the vulnerabilities to the family members, and then a determination will be made.
Based on what we've seen at rallies, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the extended family, they pushed out the protective bubble to them as well.
After the election and Trump's victory, students and activists organized protests in several major cities across the United States in opposition to his government, accusing him of being racist and of going against the rights of minorities. These rallies were perhaps the reason for reinforcing the protection of the then president and his family circle. It was also public knowledge that Trump and his relatives spent almost half of their time in government between the White House and his tower in New York City, a complex place to secure due to its level of traffic, which has required the security service to deploy more extensive and expensive services.
Donald Trump has said that he would like to commute between Washington, D.C., using the White House sort of as an office for 4 days, and then going back to New York City to Trump Tower for 3 days. What challenges does that present?
Moving a president between those locations is going to be difficult. Traffic, if anyone's been to New York, traffic on a good day is horrendous. Moving a presidential motorcade through New York on a constant basis would be a great disruption to the surface traffic of New York City.
For her part, former First Lady Melania Trump expressed her intention to remain in the tower to continue her life in New York City during the presidential government, a fact that required doubling the security structure. Although these aspects are considered to be expected situations within the dynamics of the Secret Service, they have also aroused mixed opinions due to the lack of similar precedents and the public expense that these decisions have caused.
We've had First Ladies in D.C. from minute one that engage in this big, robust international and national travel schedule that frankly probably cost the taxpayer and the Secret Service more headaches than if Melania Trump picks up her kid from school and stays up in New York. She's focused on her kids, which says to me she's probably going to have a pretty light travel schedule.
The Trump Tower chapter brought its own good reasons to the controversy, not only because of the traffic problems it caused in the area, but also because of the impressive infrastructure required to keep the area protected. During Trump's term, the city had to address the security surrounding the president-elect's penthouse in Manhattan, taking into account the leader's main locations and common spaces, controlling and limiting access to them.
The security effort to protect the president-elect's Trump Tower home doesn't stop with the barricades, checkpoints, and officers outside. The entire skyscraper is posted with Secret Service agents as law enforcement officials come up with a long-term plan to protect the building located on ritzy Fifth Avenue. According to a former Secret Service agent, the security will focus most heavily on the floors surrounding Trump's 26th floor office and the penthouse he lives in with his family. Penthouse windows will be replaced with bulletproof glass.
One particularly complex factor was ensuring protection in an area that is surrounded by skyscrapers, and therefore could be an easy target for snipers or remote attacks. The large deployment that the Secret Service developed around the tower during Trump's rise in government transformed the dynamics of the place. The exposure of the then president, added to some of his controversial directions in power, made him an enemy of many, and the Secret Service knew very well what this meant for them. Due to this great challenge during Trump's stay in the tower, they had to resort to all the tools available.
Well, bomb-sniffing dogs could also be used in the garage below Trump Tower, but the U.S. Secret Service is keeping their options open on whether to increase those restrictions.
Although the federal law protecting former presidents states that only he, his wife, and his son under 14 years of age are the only family members entitled to continue receiving this benefit, in the days before leaving office, Trump ordered that his entire clan receive Secret Service protection for the following 6 months. The benefit extended to his 4 adult children, 2 of whom were married, so their spouses were also added to the privilege, even though they had no reasons or right to receive it. According to specialists on the subject, the president can order Secret Service protection for anyone. But what has caught the attention of public opinion is that it is unusual for a president who is about to leave power to provide 24-hour security to family members who are also already adults. Another case that began to spark controversy was the expense that Trump demanded from the state in terms of protection, for an exorbitant payment of millions of dollars to the Secret Service for the custody, for a year, of 2 former advisors who worked during his government. These were John Bolton and Robert O'Brien, who in 2021 requested protection after having left their positions due to possible threats from Iran. Recently released documents reveal that the cost of that service for a year was $12,280,324. The information published by the Security Department reveals that the protection for both involved special agents dedicated 24 hours a day to guard them in their homes and offices, as well as on trips inside and outside the country. The paradox is that former officials like Bolton and O'Brien do not usually benefit from this protection after leaving office, and much less for the time that both were receiving it. The FBI warned the former officials about death threats in the spring of 2020, and after a series of alerts in September 2021, they requested Secret Service protection.
It was very serious, and I don't think it was John Bolton alone that was the target here. I think there were many former administration officials, but also private American citizens, and it really tells you the real nature of the regime in Tehran, that they are threatening American citizens on American soil.
According to data released by the Security Department, during the 10-month period from December 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022, the Secret Service bills for protecting Bolton totaled $4,934,963. For O'Brien, the bills totaled $5,778,713 over a one-year period. In addition, the reports show payments not related to the service alone. The largest of these was for trips abroad, followed by vehicle rentals. Other disbursements included temporary alarms and rental of other security equipment, totaling $1,566,648. In summary, the cost between the two former officials over the one-year period was around $12,280,324, and they are currently continuing to receive this benefit. Bolton publicly stated that the threat against him from Iran still continues. Other former Donald Trump officials were also threatened by this country, including former Secretary of State Michael Pompeo, former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper, former General Kenneth Frank McKenzie, and former Special Representative for Iran, Brian Hook. On the other hand, upon leaving office, then-President Trump ordered the State Secret Service to provide security for former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, who in 2023 was charged with trying to falsify the 2020 elections, and former Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. Protection that lasted for 6 months and meant a total of $6,194,121 in addition to the previous ones. The huge figures did not seem to matter to the former president when it came to protection, and this could be understandable given the risks that having held such a powerful position entails. However, other data revealed by the Department of Security indicate that perhaps the use of protection services pursued other purposes. According to the latest Secret Service reports, nearly $2 million was reportedly spent on security inside Trump's properties. Documents obtained by some media outlets through the Freedom of Information Act show that Donald Trump's private club was paid more than $300,000 to protect him and his family while they stayed there. A paradoxical fact is that during his presidency, Trump visited the Mar-a-Lago Club in Palm Beach, a luxury resort in Florida, some 146 times. According to some media outlets, this exaggerated number of visits could be due to the fact that Trump, during his administration, could not bill for security services while staying at the White House. Therefore, these stays could be an excuse to bill for security expenses of thousands of dollars.
Well, certainly Mar-a-Lago presents unique challenges for security because it's a larger compound that's open to the president. Ideally, you'd want a former president's home only accessed by the former president.
The location's unique characteristics undoubtedly generated meticulous logistics, and this is detailed in the reports, which reflect the controversial ex-president's high security demands, sparking a huge national scandal. While the need to be protected, as well as his family, is not discussed. The conflict would be that the eccentric ex-president and multimillionaire magnate was taking advantage of government affairs to continue enriching himself through the custody provided by the state. In short, Trump took advantage of his need to be protected as president to actively defraud the nation's secret security service, and in this clever move, he earned millions of dollars. Currently, the ex-president is being prosecuted for 34 felony charges. As part of the investigation, classified documents on security expenses seized at Mar-a-Lago are found. There are those who claim that if imprisoned, Trump would even have the state security service inside the prison, although many others maintain that it would be practically impossible for the former president to attend a common prison. The answer to these questions is in the hands of justice. Although in view of the current elections and the power that Donald Trump has accumulated during his years as a magnate and head of government, his fate to prison is practically improbable. However, his name has been recorded in the country's politics for these fraudulent movements, and sooner or later justice or history may demand it of him. In the meantime, it will be a matter of waiting for the results of the ongoing cases and the path that the country takes in the elections of November 2024, which could mean the end of the Trump era or the continuity of his empire. We hope you found this report interesting, and if you want to know more about this topic, continue on our channel and play the following video. Until next time.